open session, and it doesn't look like we have anybody for public comment for item 7. So we will go to item 8, presentation and discussion of the updated report by the Director of Electric Utilities or his designee regarding customer service, business center practices, procedures and policies, customer deposits, billing forms and procedures, and LP&L staffing forms. Mr. McCullough.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just touch on the highlights like I usually do. But feel free to ask questions on any of the written material we've given. On page 17, you see the rate comparison there. We're about state average now. I think Andy will probably talk about that some more in his report. There's a couple lower than us now. You'll see the dotted lines on there. Austin, San Antonio are kind of a little below us. I did a snap check with my bill that I'm on a competitor, SPEC, and we're very close to what their rates are. So at least local competition, we're very close to what their rates are. Yes, and I think that will the SBS has a couple of rate increases in the works with the field adjustments, so I think we're going to be in good. Our comparison with them is going to be pretty favorable here. Down at the bottom of that page, you might notice that Massengale, Brandon, and Cook GT2 have been running a lot. In June, they produced a lot of energy. Anytime they're running, we're making a little bit of a margin. We don't make huge margins on those generating units, but we're making a little money running a lot just about every day. On page 18, I'll point out the reliability index there, the system average interruption duration index on the right column, next to the last on the right hand side. That graph is going in the wrong direction. We had a number of thunderstorms that came through in June, which hurt our statistic. And actually, July is going to have some on it too, because early July, around July 4th, it seemed like every day there we were having major storms blow through. So we were coming through a rough stretch in terms of reliability, and so I will point out down at the bottom, one of the footnotes there talks about some activities that the substation department has been doing. We've had them going out and doing functional testing on every substation breaker in our system, which is a fairly major undertaking because we have close to 200 breakers in the system. But they're over halfway through with that. They've identified a few problems that could have potentially caused misoperations of our breakers, and so they're going to work their way through the rest of those. Try to at least identify anything that could potentially cause a longer outage than would otherwise be necessary. We want those breakers to operate like they should. In longer term, we're going to start a detailed maintenance program on our older equipment like that. On the right-hand side, the meter reader error rate, we finally touched our target accuracy rate, 0.3%. First time in a long time that we've been at that level, so that speaks well for Andy and his folks that have really focused on improving our accuracy. We've had a lot of improvement over the last year, so that's really good to see.
Can I ask a question or two here?
Sure.
On the outages, whenever we have a cloud come through, get on the internet, check the outage deal. Is it just me? It just seems, or when I check it, it seems like that West Loop, 19th in the West Loop area, and then the area close to the mall, South Slide area, sort of back a little bit to the east and west of that. It seems like we always have a cluster of outages in those areas. I mean, they could occur all over the place.
Yeah, we've had outages all over town when these storms are blowing through, but yeah, those areas do seem to get hit a little harder. Now, one of the outages that we had in the southwest part of the system was related to some Mylar balloons that got
right. We talked about that the other day. So
some of it is not weather related. We still have outages related to things like that, animal contacts. But yeah, the system in the northwest side of town, there may just be more exposure to lightning out in that area. There's
you tend to have more outages in areas that have overhead distribution.
Right.
Versus southwest of it, which has all
Underground.
It's true, most of the northwest part of town has got aerial construction, so that's.
Where does that transition? Where is that transition?
It's about 66th Street.
So about the meet, you know?
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Everything south is really
The other question I had, we were talking about customer payments, and it's not a new issue. It continues to kind of floor me that basically 70% of our customers pay by electronic pay, but only 62% of our dollars come in that way. Whereas basically 10% of our customers use the cashiers, but that's 17% of our dollars. And I kind of scratch my head over that. That means we've got some people coming in who are paying at the cashiers. That's got to be some pretty large payments that are using the cashiers to bring that number up. Just it's a head scratcher.
Yeah, I don't know that I have an exact answer for that.
Mr. Owen handed me his receipt for playing his electric.
That was it.
Are we running a money laundry?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
I'll check on that to see what
Like a
percentage of
White
maybe
House,
commercial
all your-
customers.
Well, intuitively, that just doesn't seem to. It would seem to me the larger payments would be electronic.
That's a great question.
I mean, it's been that way for as long as we've been tracking that data. And of course, I'm always bringing this up that trying to get more people to move to the electronic system so that we can have a more efficient collection, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, we're moving in that direction with the changes that are being worked on right now, the Cooper changes. Those will give customers more flexibility in paying electronically, encourage them to pay electronically, give them more opportunities to do that. The trend line at the graph on the top right-hand side there is definitely moving in the right direction, but maybe not as far or fast as we would like to see. Thoughts on Cooper?
Cooper's still on track. We hope to have a lot more electronic options for payment here in the next few months. We're working on signage and the kiosk. The construction of that will begin soon, and so we're making a lot of really good progress on that. So it won't be that long. My guess is the end of September, early October timeframe will be more likely when we go live with the new products. We'll have a lot better methods to track some of these payments too once we make the transition. So we have some more data to provide everybody.
I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
I was gonna move on to the construction report. June was a rare month that we didn't add any new commercial accounts to the list here. There were quite a few completions during the month, which is good. We had a meeting with the master developer yesterday, and Mark and Delbert McDougal, and I asked them about that, if things were slowing down out in the commercial development area, and they said absolutely not. We've got tons of work going on right now. So I think it was just an anomaly, kind of a lull in the permit issuance schedule. There's a lot of work underway in the pipeline to be developed. So right now we're working on 61 commercial projects. We've got over 2,000 apartment units under development in various phases of development. So there's still a significant amount of activity happening around town in commercial development. On the speaking of the meeting that we had with the master developer, we did get some insight into some of the activities that are going to be happening in the downtown areas, some new projects that they're aware of and working on that they shared with us confidentially. And there are a number of exciting things happening in the downtown area. We gave them an update on our project, and I wanted to give the board a report also that phase 2 of the project is the one that runs adjacent to this building. And we actually, over the weekend, had a scheduled outage and got to have this building served off the new underground facilities now. So we've converted another building over to the new system. This one. The plan is on phase 3, which runs down Avenue J, is the contractor is setting switch pads right now on that. It's probably going to be taking a month or so to get all the switch pads set. That run, all the conduit is already in on Avenue J. And then we will, after that is finished, we'll come in behind and start setting switch pads probably in a month or set the switches. We've already got switches in stock, so we just need to set them. And then pull cable, terminate the cable, and we'll be ready to start making use of the facilities going down Avenue J as well.
Are we still working on the partial fog in the downtown area?
We are working on what the board has given us the green light to proceed on, which is the main feeders, some sub feeders as necessary, and staying within the CIP budgeted amount that is in currently.
Has there been any progress on determining where some of the payments are going to come from to do all this?
No, we're focused strictly on what we've already been given the green light to do, and that's build feeders, build sub feeders where we need them, complete a couple of cleanup items on projects that were identified in that resolution that y'all passed a while back. So that's what we're working on right now. There's still the question out there about getting the individual customers switched over to the alley work that will be involved in that. That's kind of laying there for right now.
I think there'll be an opportunity for the technical committee to readdress that before too many months have passed.
Yeah, I think the idea was that and I think Richard has had some discussions with Amy about potential downtown TIF might have some resources available to help with some of the cut-over costs for some of the customer switch over to. We'll try to work on. But we're focused on what we already have the green light to do.
Mr.
All of the electric utilities between Pioneer and NTS.
Right.
Metro Town. Yeah, what's the
Status on that? Here's the situation. We need to get the feeder in on Avenue J, and then we need to build a sub feeder between phase 2 and phase 3. And we think we're about a year out from having that work completed, and then we can look at switching them over to the new circuit. They're kind of halfway in between the two main feeders, so we'll have to build a sub feeder to pass by that block and get a switch put in there that we can attach them to. They've already got pad mount transformers that serve both of those buildings. So it will be, there's still quite a bit of work left to do to get underground up to that location before we can switch them over.
Jeff doesn't got chewed out.
You got the plan, and we'll work the plan.
And
We're trying to help Jeff out.
Thank you, Dave.
And we've had meetings and discussed with them some of the things that we could do in the interim to improve reliability until we get to that point in time. As David said, it's probably going to be a year at least before that can be finished. And some of those issues, after researching them, because I talked to Cameron and Rachel about that as well, a couple of those outages would have happened regardless because it was just a very large lightning storm that came through and knocked out customers across the city. And then a couple of them had to do specifically with that area of town and reliability. So I think after we get this done, it can be a better system, but we're trying to figure out some ways to help them out in the meantime by giving them some things that they can do on their side to improve reliability within that building.
I'll get backup service off that emergency generator that's in right now. I think that's got some good potential happening as a short-term solution to their reliability.
Thanks. I would like to make a comment, Mr. Chairman. There is one project here that needs to be notated on the commercial list that we think with 22 months of work is the last one on page 22.
No, citizens tax.
Is that the parking garage or the tower?
We sometimes call that Griffin Tower. They're sort of synonymous.
You can substitute if you choose, so. 22 months.
22 months.
We are.
We'll start packing our boxes.
And then you have the town.
We'll have an update soon.
I've never seen anything like that. How do they get employees?
The other thing I wanted to comment on, Mr. Chairman, was we've had some questions raised about our commercial deposit policy. And so we put together some information to share with the board here, and actually Matt's going to go through that. Just try to provide the board some information about what's in our tariff now, how we apply that, and some of the issues around commercial deposits.
Okay. I'll just kind of quickly read through this, and then Andy, please feel free to jump in here because I'm not as knowledgeable as Andy is on this. But we've talked a lot recently about residential deposits, but we've never really touched on the commercial side of it. So just really quick, LP&L requires customer deposits on residential and commercial accounts. Our tariff sets out the guidelines for how those are applied for a new customer. Tariff also provides for exemptions from deposits and refunds for both residential and commercial. So according to our tariff, when you drill down on the commercial deposits, the residential deposits, it's $135. On the commercial side, it's $135 or 1/6 of the reasonable and good faith estimate of annual billings of the customer, whichever is greater. So an applicant, a commercial customer who establishes service shall be exempt from the deposit if proof that during the 2 years prior to applying for electric service with LP&L, the applicant was a customer of utility service for at least 12 consecutive months and is not currently delinquent in payment of any such utility account service and is not delinquent in paying any utility service on more than one occasion and has never had service disconnected for non-payment. And a customer on the commercial side who is exempted from a deposit can have a deposit applied if they become disconnected for non-payment, which is the same as for a residential customer. And similar to a residential customer, if a commercial customer has had good pay for 24 months, they will have their deposit refunded. On the residential side, it's 12 months. And it goes into how the refund shall be applied. The reason that we have deposits on both residential and commercial side accounts is to protect the utility from non-payment debt that must be absorbed by the rest of the customers. LP&L has placed an emphasis on officially refunding deposit for customers who have good pay status, but it is important to have that deposit. In a minute, I'll show you similar language from Austin, San Antonio. Austin is one of these that became very lax on their deposits and some of their payment arrangement plans, and then it was reported in the news that they had debt of, I think, upwards of $20 million in one given year on things of this nature. So it's important that we do collect those deposits, but we do try to give them back as quickly as possible if they've shown that they're good payment. One of the areas on the commercial side that we've had some questions about is if an entity, if an individual has an account with LP&L and they're a business, they're a commercial customer, and they're going to open up a new account. If they have multiple accounts under one umbrella, under one account, then in that instance, a deposit, may not be required. But if an entity or if a company has multiple accounts and they set all of those accounts up individually, then we have to look at each one of those as an individual account, because what ends up happening is if a company
under different business structure where you got an LLC set up for each.
So if you have A, B, and C, and D, they may have had A, B, and C and be in good status, but they've established B and it's a completely separate entity, or, you know, and something goes wrong with that, we have no way of accessing that. And I don't, you know, we can't really go into any details beyond this, but obviously we had a larger customer where we had an issue of this nature and, you know, did not have a deposit on file, and there's not much that we can do in that situation. And the amount was a fairly high one, and that ultimately gets borne by the rest of the customers, you know, in the system. And so that's why we try to work with folks, but if they're insistent on having individual LLCs and opening up accounts like that, we have to regard that as a new customer coming into the system. And the other thing too is that, you know, different types of entities will have you know, higher risk to it. For example, again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but we had a multifamily unit, student living type of place that was back and it was up for disconnect, and the amount that they owed just for a 2-month period was over $30,000. So in those instances, we have to look at those companies and realize that they can, in a commercial side, they can very quickly rack up those types of debts. I'm sorry.
No, Matt, my question on that is there a way, because I certainly understand and would agree there's a need for those commercial deposits, but is there a way that you can kind of remedy those two instances and kind of bridge? I guess the other piece of it is that, you know, those entities, if they're on the standalone basis, they're having to put up a substantial deposit. Is there a way that there could be a policy or amendment to the tariff to cure what you're saying, but also alleviate some of the...
Sure. The board can always make an amendment to the tariff, and the council will ultimately approve it. The one thing that I think we would just warn against is the fact that some of these commercial entities can rack up a good amount of money in a pretty quick fashion, and just because an individual has had a good standing on a certain type of business, if they have something that's completely separate over here, there is a risk to that. And we just have to realize that. And I bring Austin up as an example because Austin is one that the Austin City Council really pushed for more leniency in payment arrangements and these types of deposits a few years back, and they very quickly saw that escalate. And so I think you always have to walk that line between doing what's fair for the customer individually, but also making sure you're shielding the entire rate class from any type of bankruptcy or thing, something like that, where the utility could be out 6 figures and we have no recourse in terms of getting that back. And you know, you could have an instance because we refund after 24 months. I mean, you could have an instance where you have a large customer that gets their deposit refunded, and then in year 6 has an issue, and you know you're going to run into that. But I think that's why you give them that 24 months to show. And if they run into an instance where they don't pay and they're up for disconnection, you can reapply that deposit at that point in time. So I think it's a good discussion to have, and the board could certainly take a look at this and make those changes. That's just the one thing that I would lay out there is balancing, you know, being fair to the individual versus the whole. And that's the only thing I got on.
Jeff, Latrell and Mayor, the reason why I guess, and I appreciate Matt them addressing this. There was an instance where, I mean, I don't know if you guys business in my business, we have investors set up these sole proprietors for these single assets, and you know, if the deposit is, you know, tens of thousands of dollars for each entity, and I have several clients that do these or have these individual assets, it can be somewhat of a burden. But I understand the need for these deposits, but I think there should be some bridge there to where, and one of the things that I would propose is maybe a guarantee back to the individual, and you know, I spoke to Richard a little bit about this, and I don't know the legality of it, but right, and just have that tied back to them so that if, investor A does, go bankrupt, there's some recourse back to the individual. But I guess we can continue to brainstorm and see what we can come up with, but I do think that that's a huge concern if, we can't go back and collect on those deposits.
And like I said,
I think the solution, what he's talking about, is if you've got some guy that wants to come in and he's got 30 different properties and all of them are different LLCs he wants connections to, and he just wants to pay one deposit, then that's too risky, obviously. And the way you're doing it is legally correct. You make a deposit for each and every one, because if one goes under, you have no recourse to use any other money. But if he doesn't want to pay 10 different deposits, he can do an individual guarantee with a financial statement, and that way it would solve his problem, and we would be protected. The ratepayers would be protected, because ultimately those are the ones that we're the ones left holding the bag. So if you want to solve that problem, you could put that in the tariff next time around. I didn't realize that was an issue, that people were coming in with 20 or 30 different LLCs and wanting to pay one deposit.
we do have those, and for a lot of folks, it's not an issue. To other folks, they take exception to it. Like I say, I won't bore you by reading through it, but I looked up Austin and San Antonio's and have it on here, and it's very similar to ours. It looks like most folks do it our way, but I think, and I don't want to speak for all the staff, but I think the goal ultimately, like I say, is to have a policy that allows folks to do business, does not put too onerous a burden on them, but at the end of the day, just make sure that we have what we need to make sure that other ratepayers don't have to subsidize somebody water bill.
I mean, with all due
However we get there is however we get there.
with all due respect, they're setting up those LLCs for a very real reason. And the fact of the matter is, they should probably have to put a deposit up on every one of them. I know they're going to. I can hear them now. I know the kind that complain about it, but I'd be more than happy to take those phone calls. Well, I've got a couple of LLCs, and I know how that works, and it's just it's.
So
We want to be easy to do business with, but we sure need. We're here to. We've got a fiduciary right, responsibility.
So just so I'm clear, if the same corporation A has an apartment building that it pays all of you, and it builds another apartment building under the same corporation, do we ask for another deposit?
I believe we do.
So they can't use the credit of the existing entity to leverage.
If it's a separate account, it's going to be treated as an individual account. So, if they have a master account, and in those situations we may adjust that deposit, but that would still have an impact on the deposit, because your estimated usage or consumption is going to increase with that new property, and so that's going to increase your required deposit amount, that 1/6 amount, more than likely. So it may not be all brand new deposit, but it would be an adjustment for that.
Well, I just.
Yeah, right. Yeah. That's assuming that they're not exempt. I mean, if they're exempt by the tariff, where they aren't applicable, deposit's not applicable, then obviously we don't do anything. It would be those accounts that are relatively new. If we have a long-term existing corporate client that has already had their deposit returned, that's not going to occur. It'd be new accounts or folks who have had a problem with their credit history. Sorry.
If a customer has one account with several business properties around, do you combine the bill and send him one account?
We have what we call a master account.
Well, how do you account for the fact, though, that the meters may be in different parts of the town and may be different reading times?
Well, it's kind of like if you had multiple residents and you had a bill with each house, we'll just pull those all together. And so you'll have a master sheet followed by your individual meter bill, or it'll be all included. It'll be one after the other. Those different locations for each of those meters will be included in that master billing.
But in those cases, you don't ask for another deposit for each location.
No, but depending upon the usage, it may impact the level of the deposit. We may have to increase that deposit.
But I think this is certainly, I think it's always a good conversation to have. And we probably should take a look at it, you know, as we go through next year's tariff, because again, if there's some way that we can do it more efficiently, I think we should, as long as it achieves the ultimate security that we need. So, and I didn't bore you, I skipped over the Austin San Antonio language. It almost exactly mirrors ours, but I have it if anybody wants to see it.
Other questions, comments? Okay, so I guess, is that all of item A?
Yes.
I did have one other question. On the outages number, the SAID figure, which is one of the drafts on page 18. So, remind me again what when we're looking at average units of outage. We're looking at what for June? Is that 20 minutes or is it?
Yeah, the monthly bars there, you read the left-hand scale there. So
Okay.
the average customer in the month of June would experience 8 minutes of outage.
Okay, so it's
That's
11.
The green line is a running 12-month annual average. So you can see the average customer over the year, based on the green line where it is now, would have experienced about 70 minutes of outage.
70.
Now that's higher than what we want.
Okay.
I'd like to get it below 53 minutes. That's kind of the number that folks look at is the perception level of where reliability is perceived to be.
That was my
Okay.
recollection. We used to have this in a little different format.
Yeah, we changed it around a little bit, but 53 is kind of what is considered the average. Now, you know, utility average nationwide is close to 120 minutes a year, so we're still below the standard metric that a lot of utilities use, but it's not where I would like to see it. And of course, we've got a number of capital improvement projects scheduled that will help implementing the maintenance program. We've got new personnel in the budget that we can deploy on substation maintenance. So,
Well, to me, this speaks to that whole issue of reliability, right? Because, you know, you have fewer outages and have shorter outage times.
that's what we really like.
So,
We're still going to have outages when we have one of
Sure.
these major storms blow through, but we want to keep them as short as possible.
okay. There's not any other questions on item A, we're going to talk about item 9. Presentation and discussion of financial and capital statements, options, audits, and financial policies of Lubbock Fire and Light relating to debt issuance, debt issues, reserve account funding, cost allocation, revenue and expense projections, purchase power cost recovery factor, customer metering, billing, and service issues. Mr. Burchett.
All right. First slide, I'll just touch very briefly because evidently there's been a change of staff at the state, and they've stopped reporting for the last at least couple months. We believe they're about to, any day now, they're supposed to report May and June numbers. So this is really the same information you saw last month. So again, we're at $107 for the average customer compared to $108 for Excel, which is a little bit above us, and then $105 for the Texas average, so a little bit above the average at this point. As I do every month, I'll report on the pass-through of the purchase power. For the month of June, we undercollected slightly, about $500,000. This was anticipated in our modeling. I know we've been telling you we're going to be over-collecting, and by the end of the September timeframe, we would be closer. We would at least be within that bandwidth, if not evenly collected. At this point in time, it looks like with the current rate structure we have, we will be undercollected about $2.5 million. Over the last month, we found out from SPS that they have an annual production true-up. It was about $1.1 million higher than we had anticipated. We had thought the true-up would be closer to about $1.4 million, which we'd modeled. It's closer to $2.6 million is the true-up that we'll be paying next month. So that impacted us a little bit again. So we do expect next month we will probably under-collect a little bit again. But then in the August and September timeframe is when we will really see some pretty substantial over-collection amounts that will start bringing us back into at least within that bandwidth and closer to that black line across there. So we still don't recommend any change in rate at this point. We believe it's manageable. We'll get back within that bandwidth, and then as the fall proceeds, we would anticipate getting that closer to the evenly collected amount.
So Andy, you think by the end of September, our deferred expense PPRF would be $2.5 million?
Yes, sir. That's our current projection. All right. Just briefly, I'll hit some highlights on the income statement, which is on page 25 of your agenda. You can see our operating revenues are up almost $20 million over the same time period last year. Correlates with the increase in the purchase of fuel and power, which is up about less than $18 million down below. Natural gas this year is about 25% higher than it was last year. We're seeing on average, about what we project throughout the full 12 months of this fiscal year, just shy of $3 an MMBTU compared to last year, about $2.36. So pretty substantial rise in the commodity that supports the generation of electricity. Also, there are some increases in our supplies, maintenance, and other. A lot of that has to do with legal expense this year related to the ERCOT transition, which is driving that expense line higher than last year. We also have been operating our production units. They've been called on and dispatched a lot more often in the market. And so that has increased some of the fees with our power marketing companies. So that's driving some of those costs higher. Depreciation and amortization is less than this time last year. That has to do with our FERC recast of our capital program, or capital assets. You can see, so our operating income is about $2.1 million higher than it was this time last year. Non-operating revenues are up from this time last year, and then resulting in a change of net position of about a negative $1.5 million this year compared to $4.8 million last year. So an improvement of about $3.2 million over the same time period as last year.
Andy, let me ask you a question here, because I just don't remember. In the non-operating expenses, there was a large miscellaneous expense in May of 2016.
Yeah, that was the expense of a large legal expense.
Okay.
Settlement, potential settlement.
These,
that was about $1.2 million that was recorded in May of last year for that purpose.
the other services and charges that you referenced, those are higher than last year, but they're budgeted.
Yes, and as far as budget goes, we are, and for maintenance, we're about 66% of our way through the year in May. For maintenance expense, we're about 53% of budget, so we're ahead of budget there, and supplies are about 62% of budget. So overall, those are still tracking below budget, but yes, they are an increase from last year's actual to actual. All right, on the asset side of the balance sheet, which is on page 23, you'll notice cash and investments is down about $10 million. Remember, we are in an under-collected status as part of that. The other part of that is, and this is comparing to September 30th. So September 30th is usually when we have the most cash on hand because of the kind of the end of the summer months. So there's a lot of the decrease for right now is also seasonal based. Accounts receivable is a little bit less than it was in September. That will continue to grow throughout the summer months as we get closer to the end of the summer. Deferred expenses is at $4.3 million. That's the under-collected amount, where it was under-collected $6.1 right at 6 million at the end of the fiscal year. So we have had improvement of about 1.7 million since the end of the last fiscal year. Restricted investments are down somewhat from the end of the year as we've been spending bond proceeds on capital projects. We will be issuing bonds here in the next several weeks, about almost $17 million upon the approval by the council. And so that will increase those restricted assets in the August timeframe. On the liability side of the balance sheet, which is on page 24, accounts payable, which is by and large the WTMPA invoice for purchase power, down a little bit from where it was in the summer month in September of 2016. Customer deposits, which we just talked about a little bit ago, down about $600,000 from year end. So we've rebated about $600,000 so far this year. That's the net. We've had additions and deductions. Since we implemented the customer deposit refund, though, we've refunded about $3.1 million in deposits. No, $3.4 million in deposits. The big difference in the liability side of the balance sheet is the bonds payable. You see that's down about $15 million. That has to do with the large principal payment that we made this year, and we have not issued the $17 million yet. So once we issue that, you'll again see that come up pretty close to where we were last year. So we've really paid off this year about how much we're issuing this year. All right, budget comparison. Nothing really exciting. You know, we brought a budget amendment to the board, and we also took it to the council in May and June timeframe, and so that's all incorporated in these numbers. We are really, what we do in this third and fourth column is to compare where we are as a percent of budget today to where we were in May as a percent of how we ended the fiscal year. And so you can see kind of where we are on track, a little bit higher on the revenues for consumers metered and purchase power down below than we were at this point last year as a percentage basis. Really nothing much else to speak of. Everything is pretty much in line. We're still anticipating to come in under budget and in line with expectations. We will be developing a more detailed forecast how we expect to end the year. And I'll probably have that for you next month to look at some more specifics of where we think we'll actually end the year.
Andy, let me ask you a question there. So since these are through May, and you said we've had our units more in the market in June and July because of heat.
Yes.
So we think our off-system sales should get closer to the budgeted figure probably in the next.
I would anticipate that they'll get closer. May not get completely there, but we think it'll get much closer to that than we certainly did last year. You can see we're quite a bit further along this year than we were this time last year.
Right.
Last slide I have is the capital program. Again, we have amended this slide based on the budget amendment that's recently been approved. So we have about $28 million in bonds that are currently on hand for the 56 open capital projects that we have, and we have about $8.7 million in cash available for those projects. So a total of $37 million yet to be spent on the open capital projects at this point in time. You can see we spent about $1.7 million this month. Expenditures on the capital program have been a little bit lighter this year than they were this time last year. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have so many large projects under design and engineering, and we will, as you will see later on the agenda today, there's a large number of purchases for Chalker Station and for other substations. So we'll start seeing these numbers really increase as these construction projects kick off. So that kind of gives you a flavor of what we did in the month of May. So that's all I had for the financials. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
Well, the statement of cash flow is on page 26. That is on investing activities. That is sale of investments, right, for the year-to-date figure?
The 3.3 million?
Yeah, that's an inflow, right?
Not for the year. That would be an outflow. Isn't that correct, Chad? I'm reading that correctly.
Well, is May a repurchase or a purchase or, so I'm looking at that thinking that's gotta be a inflow, 3.3.
Let me get back to you on that, Greg. Let me do some little bit of research on that. That's, I don't have an answer for you right this moment, sorry.
No, that's good. I'm just, you know. So, I know you had this, I think you had this on the slide, page 25 on the income statement. Basically, you know, we're sort of struggling with this over collection and cost pass-through issues from SPS. We're still, on a book basis, GAAP basis, we're $1.5 million fiscal year to date at the end of May, whereas at the same time last year we were 4.7. So
Correct.
we're still $3 million better than we were at the same point last year. And with the heat of the summer, we still anticipate that being
We anticipate the end of the year in better shape than we ended last year.
than we were.
Yeah.
And I know the gap figures versus the cash budget numbers are never going to be exactly never the same.
No.
But still, I think that's a good message for the overall position.
Yep. And we're very close in line with where we were this time last year on budget. So in both instances, we see improvement over even last year.
Anybody else got a question or comment on the financial statements? Not Andy, thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10, I'm sorry. Backtrack and read that. Oh, okay. Item 10 is discuss and take any action in setting the date, time, and place of the August 2017 meeting of the electric utility board. I asked to place this item on the agenda. I've got a client that our next normal meeting would be the 15th, which is the earliest that it can be in the month. And I've got a client in Taylor, Texas, that wants to meet that day for their annual meeting. So we both give us a little more time, give the manager a little more time to pull that together. We do that for the 22nd rather than the 15th. At the same time, I'm not handcuffed to that particular deal.
Seems like to me, Mr. Bowman's only job under the board rules is to preside when you're not here. He doesn't have any other job. So I think he can handle it perfectly.
My job is when
On our generally,
my job is when it's third.
yeah. You know, the board rules say it's third Tuesday of the month.
Third Tuesday. So
That's why we have a vice chair.
it's up to y'all. If you want to leave it like it is, that's the, so I thought I would explain that.
We open it up to discussion.
Well, we need a motion to change it.
Well, I'll motion to make a change.
You move to make the August meeting date be the 22nd.
Yes.
Okay, is there a second? You'll be out of town the 15th or the 20th? Oh, you, so. Well, if nobody else speaks up, that's going to die for that in a second. Okay. So our August meeting will be August 15th. And we'll make sure we get the time. Assisted. You won't be here.
Do that on the day. I won't give a 15th
Or the 26th.
I won't be here.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. All right, well, that will take care of item 10. So the consent agenda, is there anything on consent agenda that anybody wants to pull and discuss separately? If not, I will kind of read through each item and then we'll kind of motion. Item 11 is consider a resolution approving the making of offers recommending adoption by the city council. A resolution authorizing the director or his designee to make such offers to purchase that certain 4.634 acre tract of real property. Attached to the resolution in the form of contract or other forms approved by the director and general counsel of Lubbock Fire and Life. Item 12 is consider a resolution authorizing the purchasing manager to execute a purchase order, KC Utility Packaging for LP&L substation structures and equipment for Chalker Substation. Item 13 is consider a resolution authorizing the purchasing manager to execute a purchase order to Electrical Power Products for LP&L control, enclosure, and relay panels for Chalker Substation. Item 14 is consider a resolution authorizing the purchasing manager to execute a purchase order Annixter Inc. for LP&L 115 kV single-phase magnetic voltage transformer for various substations. Item 15 is consider a resolution authorizing the purchasing manager to execute a purchase order to Texas Electric Cooperatives for LP&L 115 kV SF6 gas circuit breakers for various substations. Item 16, consider a resolution authorizing the purchasing manager to execute a purchase order for LP&L 15 kV vacuum circuit breakers for various substations. Item 17, consider a resolution authorizing the director to execute a professional services contract by and between the City of Lubbock, acting by and through Lubbock Fire and Life and Stanley Consultants, Inc. for professional services related to generating station controls system upgrades. Item 18, consider a resolution authorizing the Director of Electric Utilities to execute a professional services contract by and between the City of Lubbock, acting by and through LP&L IM Energy Consultants for professional services related to GT3 engine evaluation, procurement, and construction services support Cook Generating Station. Item 19, consider a resolution authorizing the purchasing manager to execute a purchase order Sherman and Riley Inc. for LP&L fleet cable